Imagine an island that simply erased itself from every map, vanishing from collective memory as if it had never existed. For centuries, sailors, cartographers, and scholars debated its presence, yet no modern GPS or satellite could confirm its reality. This was not fantasy, but a historical and geological enigma, a paradox that challenges how humans perceive reality and memory. The story of this lost island is more than geography. It is a window into the human mind and the resilience of societies. It asks us to question how we record reality, why societies remember some events while erasing others, and how the brain processes information. At the intersection of history, neuroscience, and philosophy, the island's disappearance becomes a metaphor for consciousness and memory. In the late 18th century, European navigators reported sightings of an island in the North Atlantic. It was described as lush, with dense forests, high cliffs, and a coastline rich with resources. Mariners noted peculiar tides and currents, hinting at unusual geological formations beneath the water. For a brief period, this island appeared on nautical charts, marked carefully by surveyors with precision. Yet, within decades, subsequent expeditions could not locate it. Maps began to fade its name. Accounts grew contradictory. Some insisted it was a phantom island, a mirage born from fog and optical illusions. Others believed it was real but had sunk due to volcanic or tectonic activity. How does a society collectively witness something and then collectively erase it? What psychological and social processes allow human memory, recorded history, and scientific observation to align with error or omission? Neuroscience offers one compelling lens to understand this. The human brain constantly filters information. Just as the nervous system prioritizes sensory input for survival, societies prioritize information for cultural coherence. If an island appeared threatening or irrelevant, it might fade from collective attention. Much like neurons weaken synaptic connections of memories rarely recalled. This is akin to adaptive forgetting, where memory is selectively pruned to enhance efficiency. Maps themselves are extensions of this process, externalized memory systems where human attention dictates what is recorded. The island's disappearance from maps parallels neurobiological processes where unreinforced memories decay. The story deepens when we consider the social dimension. Societies like neural networks operate on signals. A historical event acts as a signal. When strong and reinforced, it becomes encoded in collective consciousness. When weak or contradictory, it dissipates. Explorers' logs initially encoded the island as a signal. Yet, inconsistent sightings, navigational errors, and competing narratives weakened its signal. Merchants, governments, and scholars all contribute to the reinforcement or erosion of such signals. The island's disappearance illustrates how human perception is not merely a passive recording of the external world, but an active, collective negotiation of reality, constrained by cognitive limits and social priorities. Geological processes also play a role, reminding us that history is embedded in a material world that is constantly in flux. Submarine volcanic activity can create transient islands, emerging above sea level only to be claimed back by the ocean. This dynamic illustrates a profound concept: impermanence. Just as synapses strengthen or weaken, landscapes themselves are not static backdrops but active participants in the story of civilizations. Human societies are forced to adapt continually, recalibrating maps and expectations in response to environmental change. The vanished island thus becomes a metaphor for the impermanence of knowledge. What seems solid and permanent may disappear, leaving only traces in records, legends, and collective imagination. Psychologically, the phenomenon taps into a form of collective cognitive bias. Once authoritative maps failed to locate the island, subsequent observers were primed to disbelieve its existence. Confirmation bias, our tendency to favor information that aligns with existing beliefs, interacted with social pressure. Cartographers relied on prior surveys. Navigators doubted their own observations if they contradicted established maps. The disappearance is not simply physical but epistemological. Human knowledge is constrained by interpretive frameworks. Philosophers of history note that what is omitted can be as instructive as what is included. The lost island demonstrates that absence is a signal in itself, revealing mechanisms of attention, trust, and authority. The story also reveals how stress and uncertainty impact decision-making, both individually and collectively. Sailors encountering fog, storms, or conflicting accounts faced a classic problem of limited information under high stakes. Neuroscience shows that the human brain simplifies complex environments under stress, relying on heuristics. Societies amplify this tendency. When faced with ambiguous evidence, consensus often favors the safest narrative. For decades, it was safer to declare the island a mirage than to risk investing resources in a non-existent landmass. The island's erasure is both a geological reality and a cognitive strategy, a point where mind and world converge. Philosophically, the disappearance of the island challenges our assumptions about reality and permanence. If an island can exist for centuries, be observed, recorded, and then vanish without a trace, what does that imply? What other elements of our collective history might be similarly fragile, subject to fading signals or environmental disappearance? It invites reflection on the limits of certainty, reminding us that even stable constructs are vulnerable to time and interpretation. In this sense, the lost island is both literal and metaphorical, symbolizing the ephemeral nature of knowledge and the continuous negotiation between human perception and an ever-changing world. Yet there is a twist. The island's disappearance, while appearing as loss, may have had protective effects for both human societies and ecosystems. Just as stress responses in the brain prevent overload, the ocean reclaiming the island prevented overexploitation of resources. It avoided potential conflicts over territorial claims and allowed natural processes to unfold unimpeded. In essence, what seemed like failure or absence may represent an adaptive mechanism in history. Analogous to neural pruning in the brain, by erasing certain elements, the system preserves stability, efficiency, and resilience. This perspective reframes absence not as a deficit, but as an integral component of complex systems, whether ecological, social, or cognitive. Considering the island story through metaphors enriches our understanding. The human brain as a system mirrors society as a network. The island functions as a transunit signal. The tides, fog, and volcanic activity represent the background noise against which signals must compete. In this light, history becomes a dialogue between signal and noise, perception and reality, memory and forgetting. Each lost or altered record is a testament to the brain-like nature of social systems, constantly pruning, prioritizing, and reconstructing information. Understanding these dynamics helps us to appreciate the mystery of a vanished island and recognize the broader principles governing how humans navigate complexity, uncertainty, and temporal change. Modern technology has brought new tools to this inquiry. Satellite imaging, sonar mapping, and geological surveys can now detect submerged landforms and transient islands with unprecedented accuracy. Yet even with these advancements, the vanished island retains a compelling mystery. Some researchers argue that remnants lie beneath the waves, slowly eroding or integrating into the ocean floor. Others suggest that the phenomenon is entirely perceptual, arising from misidentifications, mirages, or compounded observational errors. Both possibilities converge on a single insight: human knowledge is provisional, contingent, and shaped by both the external world and the cognitive frameworks through which we interpret it. The story also underscores a broader lesson about adaptation and resilience. Societies that document, debate, and revise their understanding demonstrate a capacity for flexibility akin to neuroplasticity. Just as the brain rewires itself after injury or learning, civilizations adapt to shifting realities, recalibrating maps, strategies, and social norms. The disappearance of an island is not a failure of observation, but a testament to the dynamic interplay between humans and their environment. A reminder that knowledge is not static but emergent, evolving with both ecological and cognitive currents. Finally, the philosophical resonance of this tale is profound. The vanished island challenges us to consider the impermanence of memory, the fragility of recorded knowledge, and the complex mechanisms by which societies encode, transmit, and sometimes erase information. It invites reflection on the nature of reality itself, that what we perceive as solid and enduring may be provisional, subject to forces beyond immediate comprehension. In this context, history becomes a living dialogue, a constantly adjusting network where signals appear, strengthen, fade, or disappear, guided by both material forces and cognitive constraints. The Lost Island is a testament to this dialogue, a reminder that absence can be as instructive as presence, and that the mysteries of the world often reveal themselves not in what is visible, but in what is missing. As we ponder the fate of this island, we are also asked to look inward. How do our brains, societies, and technologies filter and interpret reality? What signals do we reinforce and which do we allow to fade? What is the relationship between perception, memory, and collective knowledge? The island, though physically gone, continues to exist as a metaphor for these processes. A signal within the network of human thought, a challenge to our assumptions, and an invitation to explore the boundaries of what we know. Perhaps the greatest insight is that the world is both stranger and more interconnected than we often realize. And that in the vanishing of one place, we can learn profound truths about the persistence and fragility of all knowledge. The vanished island may never reappear on maps, and yet it endures in human consciousness, shaping our understanding of history, cognition, and the interplay between memory and environment. It exemplifies the intricate feedback loops between perception, social networks, and ecological processes, reminding us that knowledge is not merely collected, it is negotiated, reinforced, and sometimes deliberately pruned. In contemplating its story, we engage with fundamental questions about reality, consciousness, and the temporal nature of human systems. Every map, every logbook, every memory is part of this evolving dialogue. And the island's erasure becomes a lens through which we can examine the deeper dynamics of adaptation, resilience, and understanding. So the next time you encounter a map, a historical account, or a moment of collective memory, ask yourself, what signals have been lost, altered, or erased? What truths lie hidden in absence? And perhaps in reflecting on the vanished island, we begin to grasp the delicate, intricate architecture of knowledge itself. How it forms, fades, and sometimes vanishes, only to leave traces that illuminate the workings of both the mind and society. The vanished island reminds us that history is not just a series of events, but a living system, shaped by perception, attention, and the constant interplay between humans and their environment. It challenges us to remain curious, skeptical, and thoughtful, knowing that every lost fact carries lessons far beyond its immediate context. It is an invitation to explore, to question, and to recognize that the world and our understanding of it is both fragile and profoundly interconnected. If this story intrigued you, consider subscribing to Past Lens for more journeys into the hidden paradoxes of history. The interplay between human cognition and civilization, and the fascinating ways that the past continues to shape our understanding of the present. Like this video, share your thoughts in the comments below. And let's continue unraveling the mysteries that history has carefully tucked away. The vanished island, though gone from maps, lives on in the questions it inspires, and in the curiosity it awakens within each of us.